good evening. Today is September 14th, Monday the 14th. And guess what? This is our 14th episode of the Check Drop. So welcome. There's nobody watching currently, so I'm just talking to myself. But we do have a very special guest today. It's one of my all-time favorite comedians of all time. He's amazing. He's a good friend. I'd say he's a good friend. And sometimes you can mix business with pleasure, and I do that with this fella. I'm going to give you a brief bio. My guest today has had his own special on Showtime, was featured on Last Call with Carson Daly, and his dry bar comedy special, Anti-Animal Vegan, has millions of views online. And please welcome to the Check Drop, Mr. Comedian, COLLIN MOULTON. Hello, COLLIN.
Be still my heart, the loving words of Chuck Johnson.
How are
friend
you, sir?
Who mixes pleasure with business. You left that kind of wide open.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, you know what? That's why you're the comedian, and I'm the guy over here selling the jokes.
Mixing pleasure with comedy.
That's why you tell the jokes and I sell the jokes, sir.
Well, with any luck, I'm selling them too. You know,
Well,
when I tell them, get it.
sometimes you're funny.
Sometimes, yeah.
So for anybody listening to this in the future and or watching now,
Yeah, because you record them and you put them up on the iTunes.
I put it on all
and the Spotification and the Fortify.
Spotify and the Stitcher and the whatevers and all of that stuff.
Yeah, man. And in perpetuity, all platforms that yet have not been created.
Yes,
that remain uncreated.
It's like in the future, like this will be a comedy like Bitcoin podcast or something.
If you're listening to this in 2027 on Neuropod, you're probably naked in the shower and you don't have any your hands free and you're just.
The Neuropod crypto coin is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Invest today. You can get it really cheap. So Mr. COLLIN MOULTON has just gotten off the beach. Like literally
No, I've been preparing for hours.
10 minutes ago, he called me from the beach and on his way home and said, I will be there, I promise. So
I'm going to make it. I sent a picture of me with my surfboard. I should make it probably. My friends were standing there with me. They were dying laughing. All I had to do was switch hats. Show!
Your comedy hat from your surf hat.
Yeah.
How far away is the beach from you?
Well, 21 minutes.
21 minutes.
With stopping to make a sip of juice and changing a shirt. Yeah, I guess it's 21. So maybe 18, 17 minutes.
So you're in Tybee Island, Georgia. Is that correct? Is that the actual town?
Tybee Island. Yeah. It's the barrier islands of Georgia. Most people, when you say you live in Georgia, they're like, they don't even think of water because there's just one little section, that's on the beach. So if you tell them you live on an island somewhere, they don't believe that it's Georgia.
So the comedy hotbed of Tybee Island, Georgia, you decided to pack up your family and move them to Tybee Island. How did that come about?
So we were living in LA for maybe 20 years or something. Or my wife and I had actually been. Did you just go away?
No, I'm still here.
Okay.
I like to spotlight my guests when they're talking.
Okay, that's right. You told me you were going to do that. I'm like, what happened? We lost Chuck, everybody. So anyway, so we were living in LA and we'd been there. I left Monterey, went to LA with my wife, back to LA and did my career there mostly. And then I just got to a point with internet and stuff like that we just didn't need to be in LA. I mean, like you can audition. Everybody's wanting me to audition literally virtually where you like send in your audition. And it got to the point where I was very seldom did I need to be in town. So I was like, we're spending a ton of money to live in this place. And to be honest, I'm nervous living here. It's kind of all the stuff that's going on right now because of all the Gavin Newsom and everybody's kind of getting dicey with COVID and rioting and all this. And then Rogan moved to Texas, and everybody's like, "That's a good idea. We're all moving to Texas." So everybody's moved to Texas. But 5 years ago, my wife and I we thought the same thing. We're like, "This is." I think we had like one major catastrophe, like a big fire thing going on, and I said, "Look, we're just one like catastrophic event from literally having to stand on our roof with guns and hope somebody saves us. Like, this place is crazy.
Now, how far? Like, you lived right in LA, or was it?
No, we were in Santa Clarita, so we were in like the night. We were in this little bubble of like, it's like the Midwest.
Okay.
But it's still LA. So when you have,
so you can get somewhere in a hurry if you needed to do an audition.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, you can. But and the airport's 35 minutes at 4 a.m. So it was all really good that way. But it was also, and you've been there,
it's so expensive.
It's so expensive. But then also you have all these like LA kind of things going on where it's like, big traffic jams all of a sudden, right, on your highway there, or there's just like LA to it that I didn't like, that you couldn't, it wasn't totally, it was trying to pretend to be something else, but it still was LA.
Yeah. Now, when you were out in LA, did you do a lot of auditions?
I did a lot of commercial auditions, and actually I had the coolest experience with comedy in the beginning, because I had, I just kind of, people, they liked, I had a lot of energy. So I had been a mobile disc jockey first before I did comedy. And I used to sell mobile disc jockey events, like weddings and events and stuff like that. And I ran an office, had 10 DJs. So I had no problem with a microphone. And so my only real learning curve was material and how to be funny timing.
Just that, huh?
Yeah. Material, timing. Funny in general, how to be funny in general. Also, what to do, like, where do you go to get gigs? How do you do all that? Like, so everything except the microphone. So I just kind of hit the ground running and did pretty well in the beginning. And so I got a lot of attention from like, LA agents that are like, oh, because if you show any confidence on stage at all, they're like, have you been doing comedy for 15 years? Come this way. We have a sitcom for you. And so I didn't want to I didn't want to like
sign here, sir.
Yeah. At that time, it was like just after they were handing out development deals. And so all we knew was that you get a development deal if you just try to kill. So I was just trying to kill, and then I saw these interesting comedians. I'm like, I want to be an interesting comedian too. And it wasn't as marketable at the time. So I was like, trying to figure out how to converge
which
those
lane to stay into.
Yeah. So I think everybody does in the beginning. You try to find your lane. That's a good word, lane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I love about you. Like, even today, I submitted you for an event with like 4 or 5 other comedians that are similar, because they said, hey, we want somebody fun, high energy, and interactive. And I was like, well, definitely Collin's definitely one of those ones. And you've always kind of seemed, since I've known you, you've always kind of fit that lane, I guess. And that's what, I mean, that's very marketable, though. I mean,
it's more marketable, for at the entertainment level.
Right. So, and if you can stay clean as well, which you have adapted to over the years. So,
yep. Took me 10 years, but I got it. But then I got like, I started getting these auditions. That's when to answer your question, did I do auditions? So I got an agent. I just lucked. Well, I think through a couple connections, I ended up with this agent that was like
specifically for commercials.
No, actually this was a theatrical agent.
Okay.
So I ended with a commercial agent, but I started that with a really good theatrical agent. She had Barry Pepper. And she had me. Barry Pepper was the guy in Saving Private Ryan, with the glasses, the really good sniper, and he's been in a lot of stuff if you look him up. But she had like that, and that agency had just sold Hearts War, and Shrek. So both of those, I just combined them. So they sold Shrek's War, which was it's
still coming out later. Yeah,
it was a 2-part series. So anyway, they had just sold Hearts War and Shrek, and at those times those are the 2 biggest things to go. And so everybody was looking at them, and Kathleen Lettery, I'll use her name because she really was amazing. I got a general meeting with the WB. Remember the WB?
Yeah.
And
didn't they get bought out by CW or something?
Yeah, I don't know, but they liked me because I had that same kind of thing that a lot of their ingenues had, or whatever, their main people had these like, I don't know what the word is, their stars or whatever. They had at the time
It Factor,
Scott Foley.
Yeah,
which at the time I looked similar to him because I was a little bit leaner and skinnier, and he was a little bit leaner and skinnier. So at the same time, we had very similar features, and so I had already been doing extra work and had been on one of his shows. Was it Felicity? And I had been extra a couple times I've been an extra on that show, and the other actors, when we were in there and stuff, would be like, "Hey, this guy looks like your brother, Scott." They tease us at like the craft table or whatever.
Yeah. Did they hire
So
you
I was aware of that
as a stand-in? They should have hired you.
Yeah. Stand. I wasn't even. I think he was a few inches taller than me, so you couldn't even be a stand-in.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, it was just I was aware of him, and I was aware of the look they liked. And so when I went in for generals for her, that all seemed to make sense. Like I got called in for generals from one of their agents, and I can't remember her name right this second, but she was really cool too. And Kathleen Lettery had me read. Now I had done some acting in high school, but not a ton. And but I really liked it. And then I had done at that time, I think I had done maybe one kind of like, "Hey, welcome to LA. Do you have $300 you want to waste? Here's a class." So I did one of those, but it gives you something.
Did you get anything out of it?
Yeah, it all gives you something.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking.
Was that specifically an acting class or a comedy class or a hybrid?
So it was an acting class. It was not a cold reading class. I got that later from Leslie Kahn.
Okay.
But it was just a standard acting class, and then I had gotten into like a troupe, like a sketch troupe, improv troupe. And the interesting thing is, like what you just asked, did you get anything out of it? I think you can always get something out of it if you're looking. If you're looking for something, if you're listening and you're looking. But I think everybody takes instruction a different way. A lot of people take instruction or take classes thinking, all right, I'm going to go to class, and then they're going to teach me things, and then I'm going to come away with some knowledge. But they don't going, all right, I'm walking into a library and every book's open. Now I have to figure out where the stuff is. That's kind of how I approached that one, because I was so thirsty for what to do, because I didn't know what to do. And so because I saw actors do that, where like young actors, where they would go to the class and they're like, they just kind of stay the same, and they wouldn't really like they didn't have any critical thinking about what was going on. You know what I mean? I think they just thought there was an extension of high school to them. They're like, oh, okay, now I'm going to sit here and listen to the teacher, and then and then I'm going to be me, and they're going to think, God, he's beautiful, and then I'm going to get a show. That's what I think a lot of people think in LA.
And you're still waiting.
Yeah. And that's what
Our show's even a thing anymore.
So what I was just really thirsty. So I was like getting bits and pieces that really actually transformed what I was doing and worked. So I got, I got this, I had a couple of abilities, and one of them was, and so, you know what, maybe this is even better, that I just had like a couple of main things holding on to, like if you're in stormy surf, right? And you're holding on to, you've lost your board, and there's like a little log, and you're just holding on to this little log, and that's all you have. So you're going to use the hell out of that log. So all I had was listen. That's all I had. And when you act, listen, and then let the scene unfold, and you listen, and then things will happen the way they're supposed to. You'll become more interesting. So that's all I knew. That's all I knew. And don't look in the camera. So we did a cold read, and I think part of this too, and this from dealing with comedians, when we have just been on a really long run and a super long drive, and we haven't slept for 3 days, and we've probably been partying on our previous run, so we haven't really slept in 4 days, and we get to what we're doing, and sometimes that's the best set you ever have. You know what I mean? There's this like singularity of thought or whatever, or presence that you don't have when there's a bunch of other stuff kind of going on. You're just kind of so focused because you just don't have any other energy to give, that suddenly you have this clarity. So that's what happened to me. I showed up, I'd been driven from northern Montana for this general meeting with the WB, the first thing I ever got that was worth anything. And I had driven 20 something hours to be there.
Straight from a gig in Montana?
From northern Montana down through Utah to Los Angeles, straight through, man, in the snow in the first half of it. The first half of it was snow, and I literally got there. My car was covered in just whatever you get on your car over that period of time in those places. A lot of it was cow manure. You know, who knows? Snow, cow manure.
You show up with snow still on it in LA, like, how the hell does that happen?
Yeah. It was kind of like that. It was just like, it looked crazy. It was way out of place.
Yeah.
And it was a little weird red car, and it just looked terrible. And I show up and I pull on the WB lot, and it was all I could do to get on. And I'm like, no, really, I do have a general meeting. And I walk into the office, and I must have looked when I get tired. Genetically, my dad had it too. His right eye gets like beat blood red, like to where it's alarming, and to where some people are like, "Are you okay? Can we get you anything?" And so that's how I looked, and I was wall-eyed because I was so tired. My eyes were doing this. One was like, it gets a little lazy in wall eyes, so I was like, I just walked in, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm Colin," and I just tried to like muster all this energy, but I had that clarity of energy. So I just go, "Hey," and I was real calm, and I sat down, and I didn't do this. That's bad. I sat down, and I started talking to her, and I was kind of giggly and goofy because I was just, on zero sleep, and I just felt like I was supposed to be there, and she treated me as such. She said, "I'm going to give you some lines. I want you to read them." And now, had I been rested, I would probably have thought to myself the entire time, I would not have been listening to her. I would not have been thinking about what I was supposed to be doing. I would have been thinking, this is a huge opportunity. This is a huge opportunity.
Did they give you the sides or anything ahead of time? Did you know anything about what you're going into? It was just going in blind.
Cold read.
Yeah.
So the point is, my mind would have been completely polluted with, this is a huge opportunity. This is a huge opportunity. But it wasn't, because I was just whatever. And so I just got the sides. She goes, "You have we'll read in 10 minutes. I have to make a phone call. Why don't you come back in 10 minutes? We'll do a cold read." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I was like, "All right." I'm done this class. I go outside. I'm standing on the thing. One of the agents comes out after a few minutes. She goes, "Hey, you want to run them through with me?" And I was like, "No, that's cool." And she's like, "Okay, cool. I'll see you inside." And so I just kind of went through them. And then I remembered one thing that my teacher, another log to hold on to, that my teacher told me was, you're not in a cold read. You're not going to remember the words. You're not going to remember the lines. Use that time to think. Use the time where you check the line. Don't just check the line and read it. Use that time to think about what you're saying, because it looks normal. That's what people do. You don't. Yeah. You and I are having a conversation. You say something and I listen to you. And then I think about, if I'm not an asshole, if I'm not somebody who just like waits to say what I'm going to say. And so you finish talking now. Okay. Now I talk, if I'm a good person to listen to and I'm interesting in a conversation, then I'm going to listen and I'm going to think and then I'm going to speak. So I just sort of put that in my thing. And that's the two things I had was, was listen. And then that blended with, take your time, read the word, think. And that's what I did. And
what age were you at this point in time?
Oh, I was 29,
and
how far maybe 30.
And how far into your stand-up career?
Oh, okay. So no, I was 30. I think I was actually, when this happened, I would have been like 32, 31.
Okay.
Maybe 31, 32. So I'd have been like, buddy, 2.5 years into stand-up. Maybe. So here, okay. So she gives me lines, and I don't remember what the scene was, but it was me and Tess Sanchez was the agent. Awesome person. And which I kind of did this stupid thing people do later, I'll tell you. But that I still regret to this day because she was such a cool person. And she probably would never take my call again because she thinks I'm a moron. But anyway, but first of all, we'll get to so she and I read, and she was the one who brought me in. She's kind of like, this is, a proud parent. Like, look what I got you, Kathleen. Yeah. And Kathleen Lettery, by the way, was the head of the WB and incredibly respected in the community in the industry. Everybody you mentioned Kathleen Lettery to, I think she had worked as a high up in NBC or something. And she was just like a star maker and a really, really smart industry leader for agents and production people and, casting. And so I had no idea who I was messing with. I just knew she was the head of the WB or whatever, head of casting WB. I think maybe even vice president at that time.
Were you nervous?
No, because I did not know. It was ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
So
probably a good thing then.
Yeah, and it was also, she was a woman, and in my world, like, I had a mom, I had a sister. I'd been, I know women that were older than me. I kind of know their rhythm, how to communicate with them.
Yeah.
And I also feel more akin to them for some reason. Older women. I feel like an affinity for older. Like I maybe am an older woman. I identify as an older woman.
It's not a bad thing, Colin.
It's not. I feel like I've always identified as a mature older woman.
You're really going into the background of it. Like, it's okay.
Hey, it's fine. He's so brave. So so anyway, we start reading, and I just remember this long moment where I knew what to say next, but I really thought about what Tess had said, and then I thought about Tess, and then I thought about her bringing me there, and then how grateful I was, and then I delivered the next line right as I was feeling that, and it was like catching a wave, if you want to use the surfing analogy. It was like everything I released it just went, and I was like, and I did it, and then Kathleen was like, "Wow, awesome, thank you so much, great job, Colin, that was really good," and I'm like, "Thanks." And I'm like, don't say anything. Wait for it. Total accident. It was a total accident.
Yeah.
It was like I can recreate that. So so then I just I walked out of that office and basically had kind of I got several phone calls from them, whatever that contingent, and even Kathleen once, where they followed up. They got me an agent. They got me the best agent I could get, which was Koner Agency.
Nice.
Yeah, Amanda Glazer, amazing agent. And then she started sending me out on auditions. And I said, initially I went on these, I'm going for the lead in this and the lead in that and the lead in this. Do you remember the show AD USA? AD USA? Wait, yeah, AD USA.
Do you remember?
ADA USA or something like that?
Do you remember?
No. It was on NBC, but it was like the big show at that time was AD USA. It was like, it was another law show. It was going to be the next big law show. It was like, it was Scott Foley. And, so that I went up for that one. They gave it to Scott. Here I am. These guys have been acting their whole life. Some of them are long time. They're in the business their whole life since they're kids. And I'm like, I'm this guy, and I was totally overwhelmed and intimidated.
You just drove in from Montana.
Just drove in from Montana on a one-nighter on a triple run, and covered in soot, and soot and dried beer, and yeah, I let it get to me, man. I didn't stay in that pocket of just being me and saying, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Let's just try. I didn't do that. I got intimidated, and I started going to all these auditions knowing I was supposed to get the lead and thinking I'm never going to get the lead. Like I'm going into this knowing I'm not going to get the lead, and I would screw up auditions. But this one casting director really liked me and would always have me back for stuff. So I was always going up, and I'm talking 5 days a week. I was auditioning 3, 4, 5 times. It was like that for me. And a lot of people don't get that. And I had acting friends that had been in the business a long time that were furious with me because they knew I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I'm brand new. And, and they're like, God, this son of a bitch, he just wanders in here and he doesn't even appreciate it, which I did not. I didn't know what I had. And so what broke it was I went into this audition. This is the second time it happened to me in 1 week. As I'm walking into the room, there's a room, and Jason Bateman's walking out, and I'm walking in, and they're laughing, and all right, see you, Jace, and he's like, hey, how's it going? He says, he walks by me, and then I go in, and they're like, oh, hey, and then I can feel them just go, shit, it's another fresh off the truck. Yeah, everybody get your lunch. Stop paying attention right now. I felt that energy shift and I didn't overcome it, and I felt
like you just thought he already had the gig just because of his name and recognized.
They had just experienced an audition from Hollywood royalty. Jason Bateman, it's not his name. It's that he knows what he's doing because his parents were super high level instructors and actors. And his sister was a great actor and he was a great actor as a kid. I mean, they probably just saw him knock it out of the park. Even if they didn't, they saw how you do it. They saw his take on it. And they saw how you're supposed to do it. And I'm going to go in now and I'm going to show them that I'm way green and that I don't know exactly what's going on. And, I'm basically here because Kathleen Lettery thought I did a good cold read. So that was intimidating. And the second time that happened in 1 week, I called my agent and I said, I want to go on smaller auditions. And she said, we're not aware of those roles.
We only deal up here.
She goes, Colin, do you understand? You have a 4-year window that I'm working with. you need to get this together, and you need to do this, and you need to do it at this level, and if you don't, then you won't, and that's it. That's what I'm telling you. And
So
and I'm not going to put you in on lower roles.
Did you
And I was
cease going to auditions then? Did you?
I
cut the ties?
didn't. I did that self-sabotage thing that you do at as a proud person, like too proud, and I still have things I'm struggling with in my life, in my professional life, in my personal life, failures that I just you know how you repeat certain failures in your life, mistakes.
Well,
That's one of them. Self-sabotage. If I feel like there's too much and I can't shine right away, then I tend to self-sabotage and look for somewhere I can. So what I did was, and this wasn't a conscious thing. I could feel myself doing it, but I couldn't stop it, kind of like that. And also I wasn't as aware of it then. I think now I could probably, if I had the right people in my life to say, hey, you know, idiot.
I'd tell you.
Yeah. So at that time, I called from, remember Laughlin? Remember that gig in Laughlin?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Well, there is.
No, the Pat Wilson one that was in Mesquite. So
Mesquite,
I remember
Nevada.
the little hotel that they put us up in, and it had like what was a motel hotel. It was like at the bottom floor of this place, and with the other
she
comic.
still books that room.
What?
I'm pretty sure.
I think Barry Neal stole it.
I think so.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Barry Neal stole
I
it.
think there is still a comedy club there.
For sure, Barry Neal stole it from her. I ended up writing a letter to him once over that.
Say his name one more time.
Barry Neal was operating in an unethical way at that moment, and I will not. I've gotten in arguments with him about this, and he's like, "I know ethics. I did this, that, and the other thing." And the truth is, that move was unethical. I don't care what you know about ethics. What he did was unethical with that particular situation. Period. That's all.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me a few times.
You know the deal. Yeah. Pat has it happen.
Yeah,
but really, it's survival of the fittest at the end of the day.
Well,
and I get it.
As an agent, I always, I'm a rarity. I always try to get the comedians as much money as possible, and most agents don't care about that. They're looking out for themselves. And I had 2 casinos up in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan, which I know that you know of those because there's a story, but we won't go into that story.
Okay.
But you know the story I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Got it.
Right.
But same thing. Somebody came in and undercut me and said, I can get the same comedians for less.
It's common in the business because they have leverage, and that makes sense. And then then the quality goes down by a intangible amount to the.
Well, they don't care. I mean,
right.
Because
for the client, it's relatively intangible because it would have to first then go to the people who run the room. Then it would go to the uppers, the higher ups. Then it would go to the, hey, things have changed, that all that whole system would have to happen and then come to you and say, listen, the guy we have now doesn't have as good of comedians. It's just that process is going to take years. Yeah. So once they undercut you, that's a wrap.
There's a question in the comments here. It's a buddy of mine. He goes by Ball all day. What does he say is his biggest miss? I assume he's asking about maybe a audition in LA that you went out for and did not get it. I'm assuming that's what he's asking. But that's the question I'm asking.
Oh, like like a show, like something that could have been on or something like that?
Yeah, like you mentioned the other one.
USA.
Yeah. So.
I don't know, man. I think it... Oh, you know what? This was a good one, and I should have got this, and it actually ended up being a show. Do you know Jimmy Schubert?
Yeah. Very funny. I'd love to have him on this show. I should.
Jimmy's so funny, and he's such a cool guy, and he's we became friends just because he's friends with he's friends with people. He's just a nice person. Yeah. And he knew me from around, and we did all kinds of weird stuff. Like in Montreal, we did a gig one time together and hung out all night. It was just weird, And then he took me to his brother's house one time, and randomly in Jersey, and his. Oh, okay. I'll tell you that whole story. That's an interesting story. So, but let's go back. So I go into this audition, and I sit down. I'm early, because I'm like, I'm gonna figure this thing out, and I get a role, and the role was Monkey Man. And it was like I was unfrozen, and I can't remember the name of the show, but it was like Iceman. But it was anyway. It was on like Nickelodeon or something. But I was supposed to be this monkey guy that they like a Neanderthal guy that they unfroze. That was frozen from whatever time. Plasticine. I don't know this stuff. So and
like
then
a kid show. Like
What's
a
that?
kids show? You said Nickelodeon. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like it's
yeah. It
a
was
kids
like
show.
a young person's show, right?
Okay.
Teen show, but it was supposed to be this crazy monkey man, and that was like, and like in society now because he's been unfrozen. That was just like a spinoff of the movie with Brandon Fraser or whatever.
Yeah,
and Brendan Fraser.
Encino Man.
Kind of. Yeah, maybe it was in that vein, maybe. So, but it was more interesting and actually pretty funny. The script was really funny, and I remember I got the sides and I thought, oh, this would be good, and it ended up being a show for a while. So I sit down and then Jimmy Schubert comes in and sits down and I go, hey Jimmy, and we're like talking and they call it Jimmy in. And I'm like, oh, and I got all these choices in my head that I'm gonna make, and then he goes in first. I'm like, oh no, and he's like down the hall, like 2 rooms, and they shuts the door, and I'm not even joking with you, man. I could totally hear him the whole time, just he's so loud,
overselling the acting.
The walls were rattling, the doors vibrating. That's his audition, and I'm like, what were my choices? I'm like, oh no, like this isn't. What is he doing in there?
You just get up and walk out,
dude. It was like the door burst open and people fell out laughing. That's how it felt to watch, and he's like, they're like, Jimmy, we love you, high five, bro. And he's like, hey, see you later, all right. Then he walks in the lobby, hey, Colin, kill him, brother, have a good time, and he takes off, and they're like, Colin Moulton. I literally was next.
Did he get the gig at least or no?
No. But here's what I did. I went in and I sat down. I think he did tell me later that he went into producers on that, but he didn't get it. But I sat down in the office and they're like, okay, you gotta. I was like, yeah. And meanwhile, I'm trying to forget what I just saw, and I start doing the thing. But my big go-to was at the end. I was gonna be like, when I did the whole monkey thing, I was gonna like pick a booger and wipe it on the desk to really shock them. And it came off all wrong. It came off like I did it, like the audition was over, and then I went like that.
Like, wait, all right, is he in character still, or or do we just hand him a tissue?
It wasn't clear enough. I did it all wrong. And
That's
everybody
awesome.
just stared at me. There was 3 people and they just stared at me. There was no laughter because they were confused. I mean, understandably. And they
It's like anybody just signing on right now and watching this live going, what the hell is he doing?
And they just stared at me. And then I go, all right. Thanks. And I got up and they're like, see you later. And I was like, there was no there wasn't even niceties. It was just I just walked out, and after just wiping a booger on the desk. That was a big mess.
That's awesome. Oh my god. Well, I was trying to remember the first time I remember you was through Mark Ryan. So Mark Ryan said
he brought me out.
Mark Ryan was a comedian that I was managing back in the day. And he said, "Hey, I'm gonna try something different. I'm doing this
duo show.
Yeah, a comedy hybrid show with my buddy Collin Moulton.
I gotta plug in my computer.
Okay, you can do that, and I'll just talk to the blue screen. So Mark had this show idea, and I can't remember what was it called.
It was called Funny Faux Money.
No, it was something.
Yeah,
else.
It was. Well,
I believe that, but it was that there was something else. The two of you that you had a different show name.
Yeah, I thought it was Funny Faux Money.
I don't.
I thought that's what we called it. Friends with Benefits was the album.
Well, I remember a poster and it had something else.
Yeah, it said Funny Faux Money.
I don't remember that.
Maybe there were 2. Yeah, I don't know. But we had a catchy little name. I forget. But
the Colin and Mark show.
Yeah, yeah. Well, at one point that's what it was.
Well, maybe. I just thought I don't remember whatever you just said.
So. Funny Faux Money, FO. Yeah, that was one of them. But yeah, I think we did have 2 names, so I can't remember what the other one was. But it was me first, and then he would go up and do. I would do 20. He would do 20. Is that how it worked? And then we do 20 together or something like that. I think he did 30 and then we do 15, but we would do songs. We wrote all these songs together.
Yeah. I remember No Glove, No Love or something. Or something
yeah. What was it? Shot girls got cramps. They ain't allowed to dance.
They weren't clean. They weren't the corporate market. So where did he find you? Just on the road? I mean,
no. Oh yeah. Okay. So how did I meet Mark? So Mark brought me on the road. Mark was the one who gave me my first shot on the road, where I learned how to be on the road.
Yeah.
And I had asked him about it because he had seen me in LA. I started comedy in LA. And so I was trying to be like, I wanted to be a road guy. I just wanted to go on the road and learn. I figured that's how you do that for real. And, it turns out I kind of was right. If you're paying attention, you don't get bad habits. I'm not saying I haven't gotten bad habits or that I'm not still struggling to be the comic I want to be. But I think you can transcend that part, the road part. You gotta be able to entertain all people, I think, and still do what you do. That's a real, and the road helps you learn that. Yeah, because you're exposed.
I always felt like you've been you're a showman. I always feel like
every cross section of America. Yeah. And so I'm doing stand up, and I could do my stand up. I can do the thing you learn on the road, I think, is how to do your brand of what you think is funny for people who don't necessarily think that's funny, and find a way to get them on your ride and laugh with you and see through your eyes why it's funny. Because if you don't do it that way, then you're not doing good stand up. I feel like you're just parroting or pandering or just saying what you think the audience wants to hear. What truly is the best stand-up is what I think's funny. If I'm a comedian, the reason we love the comedians we love and why they're greats is because they were truly just purely expressing what they thought was funny. And it wasn't an easy road for most of them. And really for some of them, even worse, I would say Stanhope's a good example. Mitch Hedberg's another good example. The reason it's a hard road for those types of comedians is because their brand of what they think is funny, if they stay true to it, that's a lot less common. A lot less people think it's funny. They have to find a way to make it palatable or presentable to enough of or find their crowd.
Well, it's not universal. You can't go into every nook and cranny of this United States and every shitty one-nighter and entertain people the same way, because it just won't work. I mean, perfect example. You mentioned Mitch Hedberg. If you go back and look at the story, his first special for Comedy Central, I believe he did not get laughs. Like, it was a struggle. If you go back and I don't know all the details, but I'm pretty sure that they had to tape it a few times and really mess with the audio to make it actually, like you mentioned, palatable.
You probably did have to sweeten it,
to the to make a final project, because they were like, wait, this isn't what we thought it would be as far as the crowd, I guess, enjoying it and being into it. So
because it's a certain brand of but it's what he thought was funny, and that's the key thing that we're talking about. Like with the Hedberg, I mean the Stanhope example, Doug, he has such an edgy, unapologetic style, but he also is burdened with this kind of secret. He does want to be liked. He's like, I'm like, it's right on my sleeve. I want you to like me. There's no there's no guessing. Right. That guy wants me to like him. So that's something I've always struggled with, to kind of pull back on that a little and not let that be how I am. But with him, that's like something that's always kind of, he's, there. It's always there with him, this little demon that's going, they fucking hate you.
I don't know him personally, but I met him. Because I met him like 3 times, but if
he's at his honest, he's walking people, but that's his brand, man. That's what he thinks is funny. And when he's purely who he is, he speaks to his crowd and he's the best he can be. But there's going to be 20% of a regular road room that goes, what? Oh, you fuck off, and they don't want it. And it hurts him. It really does hurt him. Even though he wants to say, hey, he can now, as a mature adult, say, fuck you. Yeah. He's been doing comedy since he was 17. Right. So, I mean, and even though as a mature adult, he has expressed to friends and stuff. That's hard. That's not easy.
Right. I mean, that's your job. You want to be good at your job, right? I mean,
you want people to like you too. You don't want to. Yeah, you're like, it's just like this weird double burden thing where it's like the one thing you want to do most in the world takes away some of the things that you like in the world, and that's just the way that's going to be, Yeah. And the guys that can stay true to that's a real challenge, and they're the best.
I always loved Doug, though. He, like I said, I've only met him like 3 times, but I've used him many times in the past, and I always loved that as his star was rising, he would still do one-nighters, and he didn't care. He's like, "You want to go to Killian, Texas, for $300?"
Yep.
Yes, sir. And then all right, cool. And then I have to give a little disclaimer to the club. He's like, hey, it's going to be a little dirty.
And he's not going to care if you tell him to do anything. Hey,
buckle up.
Yeah, he's not gonna be like, oh, okay, sure, I'll take it easy on the F words or no.
Yeah.
He's got no F's
He's
to
gonna.
give. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you can't change them.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point I'm making is that like that's always been the biggest struggle for me as a comedian is trying to find that. I don't know where I started. I don't know how I got on that tangent, but
That doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. Yeah, what is he asking? What
was your worst job and why before becoming a comedian?
Worst? I guess it would be.
Did you do hula hoop? You were selling hula hoops at one time.
Yeah, that was a great job. That doesn't fall in the worst. The worst job would be one where I was like, like a soul sucker. Like, it would be like, I was a service advisor at a car dealership. That was hard. I was a mechanic right out of high school, so I worked for Chevy, and they sent me to training school, and and I learned how to do stuff on cars, and then that was another ballsy thing that I even got the job. I walked in because have I told you this story? How I became a comedian? I mean, a mechanic?
No, I didn't know you were a mechanic until when you just told me that.
I try to keep that secret because people are like, "Hey, you are? Come here. I want to tell you something.
Can you change my oil?"
Yeah. So, what happened to me was I bought a 68 International Harvester. I had been framing houses from the time I was like 16 and a half or something. And I lived in a van. There's all this other stuff that happened before. So I ended up, I bought this truck, and then I quit my construction job because I got scared of an earthquake that happened in San Francisco in '89. So I was 18 at the time, I guess. So I guess I was 18 that I became a mechanic, and I bought this 68 International Harvester, a crew cab, had the really cool fenders and the round headlights, and it had like a big 345 engine, and it had a dually rear end, but it wasn't like flared out. It was like just had this massive bed, and it was really cool. It had a utility bed with the toolboxes, but it was from 1968. This thing was amazing, and I had a dog, and I had moved out from my girlfriend at the time, and so she and I, so I was living on this hill in Los Osos, California. I was parking at my friend's property at night and sleeping in my truck with my dog, and I was not sure what I wanted to do. And
how old were you this time?
18 or 18. Yeah, maybe 18 plus. Yeah,
Did you finish high school?
Yeah, I mean, I took a test when I was like 17 or something.
Test.
Yeah. I lived in Morro Bay, California. A lot of people surfed, and then some people went to school, and then some people did both, and so I kind of did both. And so
do you have a formal paper that says you've graduated somewhere?
Yes.
Okay,
the ones that just surfed ended up on fishing boats, and those are the guys that if you go back to Morro Bay today, you'll find a lot of them at Happy Jack's or whatever corner bar, and they're missing their front teeth because they all fight after their shift as a fry cook, and it's a bleak future. So I was like, all right, I got to get out of here, and I don't want to be a fisherman. So I started working on the galley, the Hofbrau restaurant and the Hungry Tiger, washing dishes, and then I worked at a bakery. So I would do that when I was 17. I started. I was doing that in high school, so that's why I took the test. Really, as I was living in a van. My mom had moved to Oceano. I didn't go with. So I was living in my Volkswagen van, and I would work after school at one restaurant to wash dishes, and then I would go party with my friends, and then at about 3 a.m. I would go and clean this bakery, and then I would sleep for like an hour, get up and go to school again, and in my van, that I slept outside the bakery in, and that kind of fell apart after a while when the baker came and found me, half the work's done and I'm asleep on one of the tables, and he's like, all right, you're out of here. So I lost that job, and then I was just working. So then I got a job as a construction guy. That's where I started really like working, and I bought that truck, and I'm like, man, this is cool. And here's why this matters. So I'm driving in my truck, and I hear like a big grind when I hit the brakes. So something's wrong with the brakes. Somebody says it's got drum brakes. You need brake shoes. And I was like, cool. I'm gonna go buy. So I went and bought them, and I didn't even think about going to a mechanic. I just bought the shoes, and then I went to where I used to live, and I parked in front there. And I borrowed a jack, and then I was like, took the wheel off, and I looked around. I couldn't pull the drum off because it was a it had an axle. Wait, yeah, it was a you know, it was a big 1-ton rear end. So you got to like remove some things. So then I borrowed some more tools. And as I went, I was just borrowing the tools that matched what I needed to do. And then I finally got the thing apart, and I pulled the axle out, because there's like this pin, you got to pull the pin, the axle, and there's a succession that all these things go back in. I was not paying attention to how they came apart. So there's like rings and lock rings and different things that really, really matter, Chuck. So I pull this axle out, and I got everything apart, and it's sitting there in the dirt. And I'm like, I can do this. And I got the shoes, and then those look like the shoes. So I put them on, and then I put everything back roughly how it was, you know, close enough, and everything's in there. And
you don't have like 3 extra parts or anything laying around,
everything's
like
in
an
there,
IKEA
somewhere.
desk or something.
It's all in there, just not in the right order. So I got the wheel on, big old wheel, and I'm like, so apparently I'm a mechanic, because this works great. I did good, and then I drove it. And I'm so happy, dude. I'm driving my truck. I can do anything now. If I can replace brake shoes on a 1968 International Harvester 1-ton, the world's my oyster. So I was so happy, and I had my dog.
I'm gonna be rich. I'm gonna be a rich mechanic.
Sleep, and you know, a place to park my truck and sleep in. And I was driving. I was feeling great. And then all of a sudden, I'm on Los Osos Valley Road, and I hear a whack, boom, bam, and then. And the whole thing, the whole back end just locked up, and I'm doing 65, and the thing couldn't even do 65, and it was like, it just like locked up and ended up in the ditch on the right side, because it was a big truck. It was like too big to roll over, and so it ends up in this ditch. I call my buddy, he comes and gets me, and I leave that truck there, because that's what you do in Los Osos, California. Yeah, I was like, darn.
Stick a sock on the window or something.
Lost my truck.
Yeah.
I did. I just left it there. I have no idea where that went.
You never went back.
Nope. Still to this day, I have no idea where that truck ended up. I just left it there. But I learned at that moment that I was destined to be a mechanic. That's how my mind works. Not that fuck up should have kept me away. But I was like, no.
I'm gonna fix this.
I'm a mechanic.
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm a mechanic. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I went to, my friend worked at the Chevy dealership. His name was Rich Ward, and he's still a friend. I love that man. And he was to me then like you are to me now.
Okay.
And you actually look a little like Rich Ward, which is interesting. I just realized that as I'm telling you this. This is probably how he popped in my head. So Rich, he would sell me cars for what he basically had in them, and then say, just give me the money when you can. And I would give him most of the money when I could. And then the rest, I don't know, you know, probably was somewhere with the truck. I don't know. And then eventually,
I'm trying to figure out why is that like me? Like, hey, go do the gig. I'll pay you when I feel like it.
No. I'm saying I left. He would support. He did things for me that were kind, and you do things for me that are kind.
Well, thanks.
So that's how. And he's like a big brother to me, and so you're like that with me. So similar dynamic, but Rich. At that time, this is his first step as a big brother. He goes, well, if you want to be a mechanic, and he had known we had a common friend that was insane. And so we would often talk shit about that friend together. That's how we got to know each other. And so Rich said, you sounds like you want to be a mechanic. You should come to where I work at the Chevy dealership and talk to the service manager. I'll put a word in for you. And I'm like, done. So I go in there.
I'm a mechanic.
They're going to need me. So yeah, that really was how I thought, Chuck.
They're gonna need me.
They're gonna need me. Let me tell you how deep this goes.
I'm in.
It gets way worse. I walk in. This guy has been a service advisor at Chevrolet dealerships for 25 years or more. And I walk in and I sit down, and he's a nice guy, silver hair, very dignified, and clearly a mechanic. Good guy. Seems like a good dad.
Clearly, just two mechanics hanging out together.
Well, he's a dad. No, this is a service advisor. He's got a suit on.
Right.
He's a service advisor.
Got it.
But he seems like a good dad. Like what's up?
Salt of the
Get
earth.
him, Vive.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, like a good guy. And I feel comfortable right away. And I said, Rich, Rich is a friend of mine. And he's like, yeah, Rich had mentioned. And I'm very excited to have a look. what your resume. Then I realized, of course, when I looked at it, that you haven't had any experience, like formal experience as a mechanic. I was like, yeah, I know, but I've done I did some work on a Volkswagen I used to own. I took
off that drum. I mean,
well, let me explain what I did on the Volkswagen. I took a lot of stuff off my Volkswagen. I just continuously removed things from my Volkswagen. It started out as a full Volkswagen, and when I don't even remember where that ended up, a junkyard, I think. But I took off so many parts that it ended up being undrivable. I just kept removing things, just trying to streamline it. Like I took the pop top off. I took like different things off. And I just sabotaged it, but I knew how to use a wrench and like do that, and I love doing it. So I told him, yeah, I've done a lot of work on my Volkswagen, my first vehicle, and then I just did a brake job on a '68 International Harvester, rear brakes, 1-ton chassis. So, I know how that all goes. And he's like, yeah, Rich told me that about that one. He goes, did that not? You didn't finish that the right way or something, or like something happened to it. And I go, oh yeah. That it blew up. But the point is I did it. I could do the brakes.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing. My mother had bought me a full set of tools, meaning she wanted to support me. So she said, can I get you some tools? And I said, yes. As many tools as you can get me. And she said, okay.
Push in the right direction. Like, hey, get the hell out of the house. Like,
no, I didn't live with her. I never lived. Yeah, I didn't live with her. But no, she was just trying to help
with your life.
She was trying to help. No, she's being nice. But she had a similar disconnection with reality that I had at 19, which I was supposed to have. Unfortunately, she was much older. So she bought me a full set of tools. That's what they're called in JCPenney's catalog. She ordered them from JCPenney, full set of tools. And so
it's got a hammer.
Dude. This is the problem. That's the verbiage I used. It had a hammer, it had pliers, it had screwdriver, it had both kinds of screwdrivers, and even a shorty.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, he goes, do you have any tools? And I said, I have a full set. We're good, bro.
And you carried it under your arm probably too.
We're good, bro. I got a full set. I'm going to be a mechanic. There's no doubt about it. It's all I want to do. And I'm going to be a damn good one. And here's the thing. You're going to wish you would have me if you don't take me now.
Well,
you're going to wish you would have hired me.
Long story short, really did he take you or not? Were you hired or no?
First, he said this. I've been in this business for almost 30 years, and I've never met anybody who has a full set of tools. That's amazing. He goes, Billy,
he's got a full set.
I got 60-year-old guys that are still buying trucks off the Mac, or buying tools off the Mac truck. Yeah. And that's their whole paycheck goes to that truck. So that's amazing that you've already got that name.
Someone just asked, has Colin ever been diagnosed with ADHD, DDD?
No. So he hires me and he sticks me in the lube bay. So I'm immediately working on customers' cars. And I got a guy looking over me, and I'm right next to the warranty office. My rack was right next to the warranty office, and I barely knew how to rack cars. And I found out later from the warranty advisor, the woman who ran it, her name is Paulette. She was like, you know how scared I was for the first year that you were here? They had you rack a car. Good, you were doing. And I couldn't wait. She goes, some days I wanted out of my life so bad that I just couldn't wait for a Chevy 1500 Silverado to come flying through the wall and end it.
That's awesome.
That's life at a dealership. So he hires me. I go, my first oil change. My friend Eric Grimes, EK Grimes. That's how he signed all his flags. EK Grimes. Eric was my mentor. He taught me how to do it, is how you do that. Here's the drain plug and the oil filter, and you lube the chassis. You got to look for these things. You want to look for upsells. You want to sell stuff. He said, sell like a repair or whatever like that. Now he was referring to older vehicles. So first car I get in, first oil change. It's a 3,000 mile car, 3,500 miles it's got on it or something, and it's an S10 pickup, and it's got a little 2.8 motor.
Hard to upsell somebody on that. Maybe an air filter.
The 4.3 is the first year for the 4.3. So you can't really upsell stuff on that, but I didn't know that. So I start my oil change, I drain, I get it up in the air, I drain out put the oil filter, and then I go to start it. and it's, you know, and I have it up on the rack and I'm letting it run like I saw Eric do. He lets it run, and you know, get the oil warm, and I'm looking underneath it, and I'm hearing this knock, and I'm like, well, it's got a knock.
You never put it back.
I go, bro, Eric, come here. I go, I think I just sold an engine. Listen to this. And I go, listen, I think we got like a rod knock here. We could do a warranty engine on this. Do I get the work if I upsell it? And he goes, did you put oil in this car? And I was like, we should bring it down, bro. And he's like, oh God, dude, he's climbing to get the key and turn it off. He climbed up there and like jumped and like grabbed the thing and climbed up, shut it off. And
I had assumed that you put the oil in, but just didn't put the valve back on.
I put everything back together and did not refill it with oil. And so, yeah, I just didn't know. I didn't think of it.
Was that the day you were fired or not?
No. So Eric puts the oil in and he goes, and I'm leaning in with him and I'm like breathing really heavy. I'm like, dude, this is bad, right? And he goes, you probably took 15,000 miles off the life of this engine for sure. Like at least. How long was it running? I go, long enough to upsell an engine. So he's like, all right, well, let's just let her go. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, I mean, what are we going to do? You know, we could put some, I'm going to put a supplemental thing in there, and that should coat the engine and give it a little help. And that should hopefully take care of any damage that might have happened. And that's it. So let's just do that. And so I was like, okay. So I was like, oh, this is how we're doing things. So yeah, that was my first job. And then the same week, I proceeded to fill the giant 55-gallon oil drum with waste oil from it's a 55-gallon drum, and there's a 500-gallon drum. Or more maybe, but it was huge. And it was on the backside of the shop, and it was at the top of the hill, right? Yeah. And it had this pump that you would stick in your 55-gallon drum where you put all your oil change oil, so all the dirty oil. And it's filled with black oil, and with deposits in it. It's terrible stuff, and it's full. And so I bring it out and I take the little pump thing, I stick it in there, and I stick the other end and I turn the pump on and I walk away. And you're supposed to stay there, because what if you didn't check the level of the big tank, which I didn't.
Yeah. And
now you're pumping 55 gallons of oil all over the parking lot. What if you do that?
Did that happen?
That's exactly what I did. And this is right after the Exxon Valdez. So for the rest of my job there, 3.5 years, I was known as
Valdez,
as Hazelwood.
Awesome, man. Hey, we're going to pivot a bit. I want to say this is actually a great lead-in to my last question for you, because over the last 2 months or so, I've been doing these podcasts, and I've been using you as a reference for many of these Zoom comedy shows, because most comedians don't want to do them. I still, even up to like a week or two ago, talking to comedians that said, I will not do them. And I'm like, well, eventually you're going to have to, or you're not going to be a comedian anymore. So I've used you as an example many times that how you adapted quick and you jumped on it, and you're doing a bang up job doing it. So Mark Handler had asked, you have a great setup of your mic and your bricks. Is this Zoom online shows or for another reason? So,
it's for podcasts and Zoom shows. Yeah, it's what I've been doing, Mark. This is where I do my live Zoom shows. Sorry about the dinging happening. I don't know how to turn off my thing. So so this is my
got all the bells and whistles, but he can't turn his phone off. But
I can't. Getting a look at my laptop, which I could figure it out. It would just take me a minute. I don't want to do that. So anyway, so this is actually vinyl that so I started doing these fundraisers in Savannah, Georgia, and quite a few years ago when I moved here, and I got really lucky and got aligned with this guy who does graphic art for huge department stores and stuff, and he lives here on Tybee, and the Tybee community is super supportive of one another, and this guy's no exception. And so we do fundraisers for nonprofits here in Tybee Island, really just local nonprofits, Tybee and Wilmington, Savannah in general, but try to keep it concentrated to the islands. And We help each other. And this guy does all my graphics and all my marketing and, stuff like that. Big banners. He gives me huge vinyl banners. He has these huge vinyl printers in his basement. And he can produce stuff that, that a corporation would have a hard time getting in a week. He can give me that in an hour and a half. And all I got to do is send him an image. And whether it's a banner, a sign, a backdrop, for example. And
it looks nice. I mean, because that's a solid backdrop with a light, right?
It's solid but it's vinyl.
Yeah.
But it's.
I guess what people are asking, like, it's not a green screen. It's an actual.
No, it's real. Yeah. Unfortunately, some companies, when you do corporates, they want to give you a virtual backdrop, and you're like, okay,
yeah.
I guess you want to do that.
In theory, you can throw a green screen in front of your backdrop and then do that.
No, that's fine. But I'm just saying it's not going to look as professional. This looks way more professional.
Right,
I could put your logo that you want. That would look better, than you making some cartoony thing.
Yeah, well, you can see the logo of the check drop right in the corner.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks great. It's the way it should be. Yeah, but sometimes they want to do this other thing. But anyway, but what I was able to do is create this cubby of black brick, and then I got color lights. I could actually give you a better look. Maybe
give everybody a tour of your little studio.
But I'd have to kill you. So I use a Zoom H6, and this is like one of the corners. I don't want to knock anything off, but this is the corner. I actually have these little brown chairs for the podcasting, and it kind of creates a nice feel. And then I have white brick. I have white brick on the other side of the studio. The reason I can't move you around very much is because I have this box that I built around my laptop to reduce the what do you call it? When the light
glare.
The glare, yeah. So the glare, that's a real issue with proper lighting. So I built a box, and the box has slots for my sound, for my plugs, for sound and power and stuff. So I can't really move you around a lot. But there's a whole nother one of these on the other side of this shed studio, and it's white brick. And so I use different colors, and then that's more like a beachy thing. So I'm going to start actually putting in cool. I'll probably put a surfboard up and a couple different things. That's for the Barefoot Comedy Podcast.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
Yeah. And then the other option is to do green screen and different things. And, my feeling is that this is where we're headed. At the end of the day, this will be a field that exists, even if it's not the main one anymore.
I agree with you. I feel like on my website there's a form now that you fill out, and I added in-person live or virtual, and I don't think I'll ever have to change that. I think I'll leave that option until I retire, because I think people will, hey, we would like this. I mean, some people do like it, and it's quick and easy, and some people would like to do it for a 15-minute lunch break type thing, and it can work. So
I can give you a little insight on that, a little secret. If you're a performer and you're watching this, don't be afraid to do shorter shows for less money, because that's much more successful typically, in my opinion and experience. It's better to do a package of 3 10-minute shows. There's an attention thing that happens. It's different. You're in your house, kind of. You're sitting in your, living room or whatever you're doing, and I feel like it affects. You can't do a 30 or 40-minute show stand up in a Zoom atmosphere. It's just weird. So I think little vignettes are better. You have a magician. You have sidemen. You'll have I've done shows with Ben, and I've done and Kira or whatever. We'll have a couple comedians, for 10 or 15 minutes each. But I've done shows that were 35 or 40 minutes, and it is not fun for anybody, me or them. And the way that I now mitigate that is I'll offer them, if they really want me to do a longer piece, I'll offer them a 20-minute set. That's max. And then we'll do I'll do a 15-20-minute Q&A after, where I hang out with you and tell stories.
Yeah.
We'll just hang out.
That's exactly similar idea, but with the colleges, every show was 50 minutes to an hour before.
Yep.
And I give them a 30% reduced rate, and you get a 30-minute show. That's your cap. And if you do want longer, you have a 15-minute Q&A if you want.
Yeah, or hard sell the Q&A and just say, hey, this guy comes with a 15-minute Q&A. That's it. And the cost
kind of that's kind of how it's been working. So
yeah, because these guys all want to hang out and talk to you anyway. They really do.
Right. I mean, then it just becomes like this, like a little mini podcast. So
yep,
I mean,
that's right.
And if people are into it, I mean, like you can talk to a brick wall, right?
I have a hard time opening up.
Yeah. Well, this is the point of the show, the check drop, where we kind of start wrapping it up. So yeah, man. First off, again, thanks for coming on. I love you to death, and
love you.
I mean, I could talk to you for 12 hours easily.
I know you and I.
I think we've only talked about 3 things here in this whole thing, but maybe we'll have you back in on in another 14 episodes or so.
Let's do another one.
Yeah. So
every 14.
Yeah. So I leave it up to you how you want to close out the show. If you want to tell your favorite comedy story or your worst comedy story, or just want to plug something.
Okay. Yeah. I think, let me say that, when this thing all shifted, one of the things that I ran into, one of the problems, cause I think we're talking now about I like talking about this stuff. One of the problems that I ran into was, what do I do next? I've been traveling for 20 years. I just had this conversation with my wife and, it affects you. I'm gone from my life 3 weeks. I mean, a week every 3 weeks. I would go for the long
because you do a lot of cruise ships.
Yeah. Well, not a lot. That's the thing. I don't do a lot because I have little kids, but I do like one a month or one every 2 months.
Well, you do cruise ships and stuff too that keep you out.
Right. And so I'm gone from the family for that period of time, and there's something happening in your mind and your heart and your where you're resetting in a way, and you get in that rhythm after over 20 years. Or 10 years even, or whatever. And so comics do this where we travel and, when we come back to our lives and we're regenerized or regenerized, that's not a word. We're regenerated. We're revitalized and we're reset.
Yeah.
In our relationship, in our parenting, in all the things, we bring so much energy to the table coming back and new ideas. And then we have to, the problem then is to learn how to fall into that energy that they're in and not force our energy on them. And so that was always my rhythm, and then now that's gone. I'm here all the time. And then all of a sudden, at the same time, of course, then my job, I'm not working. I'm not generating the same kind of money. And I can't just go out and make a bunch of money and come back and be like, all right, we're good. And let's, go get a couple things and have some fun. And I can't do that anymore. So I'm just, so creatively, it affected me, where I also can't produce new material the same way. So that's a trick. And it just, it permeated my whole life. And I went through a little depression, like very recently, where I as much as I want to, I want people to feel like, hey, Collin's fine or whatever. I wasn't. I was trying to do the best I could, but I had to I had to go find joy. That's why I've been surfing so much and not doing as much work.
But that's, I think everybody, because we are all in the same boat. Most people, I mean, there are some people that have not been affected by this really at all.
That's why I mentioned it.
But everybody in the entertainment business absolutely is kind of the same thing. I've gone through that roller coaster of highs and lows. I mean, this podcast started as a low. I was like, I've got to do something. I didn't realize I needed that creative outlet.
Isn't that interesting?
I mean, I am behind the scenes, and I was like, let's do something different.
It shocked me that you did that. Yeah, and that you're doing it, and you do it well, and you're like really embracing it.
It's a B- at best.
Whatever. but you also know how to produce these things and how to get them out there. You know the social media end of it, and so you're able to embrace that. Or like that's probably the kind of, isn't that kind of what brings you joy, is to like see the numbers and make it work.
Right. I mean, and I don't care if there's 4 people watching or 400. I mean,
but to manipulate those numbers and work with it, that's kind of your game.
Yeah. I mean, again, but I started this, and I've interviewed some people that I don't even know. I mean, and that's been interesting too. Like, I had Josh Blue on a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
I met him like 3 times, but
I've heard nothing but good things about Josh.
Yeah, but initially he didn't want to be there. If you go back and watch it, for the first 5 to 7 minutes, I was like, oh boy.
He's like, who is this?
It was really like, oh wait, I need to interview this fella now. So not just say, shoot the shit. And have you on, or like, Chad Daniels or or Kevin Bozeman or something where I can just talk forever. I'd love to have Mark Ryan on here. I'd love to talk about like that story.
Oh yeah, that That's cool. Little
If
therapy.
Mark Ryan is listening, I'd love to chat with you.
Yes,
at some
therapy.
point in time.
Yeah.
We can do it right here. We'll do the
Oh
the
my
wiki
God, that'd be
source there.
awesome.
That would be
Yeah,
funny.
that WTF episode with Louis C.K. or something, or was it Rogan? I don't know. Oh no, it was it was man, what was it? Oh, it was an episode of Louis when he had Dane on.
Dane Cook, yeah.
and they laid it out on camera. That was so funny.
Yeah. So sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, that's okay. I was just saying. The reason I brought that up is we don't talk about that part as much. That our lives have all seismically shifted, and there's a backlash. I mean, I've heard parents talk about it with their kids, and like they're getting these depression. They need exposure to other people, socialization. But I think it's a lot of like blind talk. They're not really being introspective. What I've noticed is that I feel like my rhythm is off in life. So then I go to what my go-to is, which is to go find joy somewhere. And that can be healthy or unhealthy. But either way, it's obsessive for me. So it's unhealthy. So I have to then back off and find the work mode again and get back to the harder things and do them and force myself to do them. But here's the thing. There's no track. I don't just step on the, you know what I mean? I don't just go like buy a plane ticket and go do my shit like normal and feel good. And then there's also not 300 people telling me I'm awesome anymore. And my wife won't do it. That's why I used to leave. So
she does tell you it doesn't really carry the same weight as
dude, I had to tell my wife yesterday, I go, you don't understand. I don't have everybody telling me I'm awesome anymore. Your job just got more important. Like you have to now find a way to, because she's not an affectionate lovey-dovey. Yeah. So I go, you have to find a way to somehow like notice if that's really, really spinning me. I'll tell you, but I need you to be that person. Like come to me and at least get like every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, you ultimately everybody still has their happy place, right? So I mean, being on the stage, it's got to be your happy place. I mean, my happy place has always been my going to the golf course. I got a great,
that's your joy.
Great group of friends, and I've been playing a ton of golf.
Yes. Did you find yourself diving in hard?
Yeah, man. I'm single digit handicap now. Like I'm like getting
right
good
as your handicap went down, so did your income, kind of thing. Or like,
well, I mean, yeah.
That was what I noticed is that like I started as my income started declining and pressures got worse, and I was like trying to figure out what to do. I started surfing a ton, trying to find joy, and that's not getting me more money.
Yeah, well, at least surfing's free, so.
Yeah, that's true. I don't have to buy.
So I mean, but my wife is the best ever, and she has not once said like, "You're going golfing again," because I think she knows. Like she's like, "All right, let him go hit something." Like,
yeah.
And it's not a wall.
But you also are a responsible grown up, and you went, I got to do something now. And you made this podcast, and you're like finding new ways to book people and stuff like that. I literally have taken like a full month to myself and just not, I get in my studio and I'm like, I got a gig here, a gig there. And it kind of dropped off as soon as I finished the studio. I had this big lull where I didn't have gigs. They just stopped for some reason. I don't know what happened. And it was like I don't know. It was just like an ebb and flow, but I felt this hole. And then I'm like, I got to be proactive now, but I got nothing in the tank.
Well, I'm a comedy agent purist, right? So I didn't jump on as quickly as you did with the virtual.
Yeah.
And everybody
I gave you shit for that too.
And everybody in the college market, I was like, I told all the agents, we'd be on Zoom calls talking about like, what do we do? How do we help each other and such? And I said, what? I'm going to take a break. I'm on a break. And for 3 months, I said, I'm not doing it. And then
you missed a step because a lot of guys hit it running.
Yeah, I did miss a step, but it is what it is, and I acknowledged, and I moved on, and now I'm jumping right in, and
that's what I'm having to do right now. I'm in a transition back to work.
Yeah,
I said I did surf today twice, but I'm just transitioning back to like, okay, I got to be in the office. I got to be in my office, my studio, where my desk is, and all my stuff. And I got to be in here a certain amount of hours a day, and I just got to crank on stuff that whether or not it's a thing, it's got to be a creative endeavor. It's got to support my career. Period.
Yeah, well, ultimately, you still got to make money.
Here's the thing that I said to you, and we can end on this if you want. I know you want to wrap it. Successful people don't. Wait, how's it going? Successful people. Wait, what do they do?
Where's your
I don't
plaque?
know. I don't know any.
Put on a plaque here.
Successful
you can open
people
your phone.
Don't wait to go back to normal when things change. They capitalize on the new opportunity. And that's what I feel like we're in a position to do here with this. And I'll give you an example. I called my friend who, remember I said I used to be a mobile disc jockey.
Yeah.
In one of my first jobs after all that mayhem, when I was a mechanic, actually, I got a job on the weekends working from a DJ company. And then my friend that I DJ'd with bought it. And then we had this lifelong relationship. We're friends. And it's a great company. And real customer in a lot of events, all this stuff. So I was scared to call him after this whole shutdown quarantine thing, because I'm like, oh my God, he does events. He's a mobile disc jockey. You know, he does weddings and parties and all these things. His life has got to be like exploding right now. I don't know what's going on. And I didn't call him for like 2 months initially. And then when I realized I hadn't called him, I was scared to call. And I don't know if you have people in your life that happened with. You were like, what happened? What's going on with that guy? Wait a minute. So that's what happened. I called him and I was so scared. Like, I hope he's okay. And I said, Sean, what's going on? How are you doing with the change and everything? And he goes, oh, great. I'm on vacation in Tahoe right now. Everything's going great. And I'm like, so are you not working? And he goes, no, it's crazy right now. And I'm like, what? How is it crazy right now? And he goes, oh, like right. As soon as we got into the quarantine thing, I just kind of retooled what we're doing. And I started offering this new option with weddings and parties and events that I believe is going to be a huge part of my business, especially after we go back to normal, if we ever do. But they're only allowing certain amounts of people at weddings. So he allows virtual streaming option through virtually streaming the wedding with multiple cameras and knowing where to be and when, and so you got people all over the country at your wedding that couldn't fly out.
Yeah,
that couldn't go. And he created a package and marketing for it and training for new employees. He put a booklet together, trained new employees to do it and run it. He's got crews doing it, and he goes, dude, I'm making more money doing that than I ever was doing the other DJ stuff. And he goes, and not only that, it's going to support our DJ service when we're done with this. Yeah. Because when you have a wedding of 200 people, but grandma broke her hip, she could, her grandson or her son can stream it for her in Iowa, where she lives at her farm, and she can watch it, be a part of the wedding. She can interact.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, even like Jesse.
We weren't doing that before. Why were we not doing that before? Like that wasn't a thing.
We weren't thinking outside the box. I mean,
nobody. Right. That's
gotta think outside the box. And,
it's a forced. It's like a forced epiphany. And if you look at it that way, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Successful people don't wait to go back to normal. They look for the opportunity. They look for the epiphany.
Adapt to the change.
Yeah. And I say they because I don't consider myself one of them most of the time, but I see the pattern and
But if you keep your eyes open and see from somebody else and go, all right, and then you're open to suggestions, I think that's
success. Yeah. Success has got to be proactive. It's not, it's not going with the flow, wait and see what happens.
Jesse Campbell and I were talking about that just this past week about how I think just once we get through all this, I mean, on the backside of this, I feel like the floodgates going to be open. I mean, as far as live entertainment, I mean, we're going to have so many options to work, I think. So, because there's not going to be a lot of comedians still standing, I think. So
maybe not. Yeah, maybe not. A lot of them gone back to work. Maybe they'll have new material.
Maybe.
The worst part of being a tire replacement guy.
You can always go back to being a mechanic.
Yeah, I could. Well, I built a lot of stuff in my yard. I built I have livestock and chickens and all kinds of cool stuff, and that's keeping me.
You can do anything you want.
Yeah,
the options are endless.
Just trying to stay behind my mailbox.
Well, brother, dude, thank you so much for coming on tonight, and I'm sure everybody listening has gotten some kind of entertainment value out of this today.
Good.
So,
yeah.
So, all right. So, thanks everybody for listening and/or watching. If you need a comedian for any event in the near future or in the far future, feel free to go to summitcomedy.com. Collin is available.
I am.
For anything.
I'm available. The odds that you're going to pick an hour that I'm doing a Zoom are pretty slim. So drop the check and let's do it.
Yeah.
Get it? Check drop.
Got it. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
I've got gas, so I have to go.
Bye.
I'm mic'd up.